Good evening in the UK, everybody. It's 6 p.m. and I'm just going to bring upon you all our co-host as well for the call. So every single week we get really, really excited because this is one of our favorite calls of the week where we are able to share with you some experiences, but at the same time involve you as well. So I have with myself Maher Awad, and I always say this, Maher is not only a disciplined leader and accomplished in multiple different operations and sectors, but he is also somebody who is so much passionate about mindset, inner circles, and networking that he speaks from a lifetime of intentional growth and leadership. He is an entrepreneur across sectors like distribution, manufacturing, commercial real estate investment. And then you flip to the other side, completely different, actively trading in Forex, crypto stocks. He is a CEO of multiple traditional businesses, but my favorite role he holds, he is the co-founder of QBN. And not only that, it doesn't stop there. He is multilingual. Many of us are hardly bilingual. He speaks four languages, which enables him to connect globally and beyond business. Maher is a seventh degree belt in Shaolin Kung Fu, which is a true reflection of decades of discipline and mastery. And I'm privileged every week to join you, Maher, on this call so that we can inspire others that if we can, ordinary people, so can they. So thank you, Maher.
Thank you so much, Shazia, and what a beautiful introduction. And thank you so much for the recognition and acknowledgments. Um, I'd like to hand it back to you because you don't you're not too far from that circle of friends that I have that are so successful. Shazia, for everyone on this call, has been an amazing co-host through doing this mindsets and really got to know her at a completely different level because we've known each other for several years. But this young lady here is phenomenal, really one of a kind, an amazing woman inside and out, entrepreneur herself, diversified portfolio into so many different parts and avenues of different markets. Uh, an amazing part of our QBN growth, especially with the Qminds. She's going to be starting the Empower Her movement here soon. I think this Saturday, right? Is you're having your first one?
We're having the International Women's Day kickoff, and then we're going to continue our sessions when we end Mindset Matters. We're going to flip to Empower
Yeah,
Her to give everybody some diversity in knowledge and exposure as well.
fantastic. And so recently wrote a book, Love and Leverage, correct? The Freedom Code.
Yeah, love and
There it is.
leverage.
Oh,
That's what
there
our
it is.
topic is today. So I
Yeah,
thought I need to have it at hand.
she has it at hand. It is actually today's topic about leverage, and it is available on Amazon. So let's support Shazia. Go to Amazon and find that book, and not just supporting her. You'll learn a lot from that book. She has an amazing mindset. She has a PhD in education, very diverse. So pleasure to have you here, Shazia. And today's topic is very for everyone on this call, this is the second to the last mindset session where we only have two left today and next week, and then we'll be done for how long, Shazia?
Well, 12 weeks we've completed. We're going to then transition to 12 weeks, 12-week series of Empower Her. And I've got a few other ideas up my sleeve, which I'm not going to disclose, but I shall share with you. And then we'll see which one we bring back on. But mindset will come back after this. And Empower Her is also very much about mindset because we'll have 12 women sharing their experiences and what success looks like for different people, because it doesn't have to look the same. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to be successful. When I first wanted to be successful, it was being a head teacher or a principal, whichever, depending on where you reside, the language you use. But it changed later. And I'm sure Maya has gone through that growth as well.
Absolutely, and we're no different than anyone else in this call. We don't have any superpower, any special gifts, any. What we implemented in our lives was a discipline that any one of you can have, and a lot of you guys have on this call. I know a lot of you guys on a personal level. It's the discipline to step out of your comfort zone, discipline to choose your circle of friends, and it's a discipline to be consistent and aspire for more, is to create goals. And something. This is our 11th session, Shazia, and there's something that every single session we mention, and it's the same thing we mention over and over again. And of course, these are different topics, but it all boils down to the same foundation. It's the foundation of aspiring to want more, to having a reason, the reason why you want to do something different for yourself, for your family, creating the circle of friends that we talk about to push you into these different topics. Most people measure leverage with currency, with money, whether it's a pound or the euro. True leverage is actually having the time. The wealth is time, because time is so valuable, so precious. Once the minute is gone, it's gone. You move on. And so many of us are trapped in that mindset where we think that, busy, being productive equals earned money, and for that, it wasn't me. And it was at the beginning. It was beginning when you started off and as a youth and you make your first paycheck at your first job. You get really excited and you're like, wow, I made some money, and you put it in the bank. But some things that you don't learn is, what do you do with that money? You earn $100 or $1,000, whatever your salary, weekly salary may be. What are you doing with that to create leverage for yourself? Are you spending it all on, hey, I want a new toy, I want a new car, a new iPhone, or are you diversifying? Are you keeping some away for a rainy day, like my dad always taught us? Are you putting a portion of that into a recurring investment, something that produces money for yourself? Are you, what is it that you're doing with that first paycheck? So, me early on this entrepreneurship mindset that I had was, of course, you learn that you learn different lessons as you go on in life, and we listen to our parents, but sometimes we don't. And just like a lot of young people on this group, I wanted the fancy car, I wanted the latest phone, and I'm trying to teach my children that yes, it's nice to have those, but there is a time and place to have those, right or not, Shazia?
There is, but I guess as the younger generation are growing up, they want instant gratification. So that is something that I'm noticing. But as long as you get the balance right, as long as you get the understanding of, yes, I can, but I also need to be able to leverage what I'm doing now to benefit me in the future. And they're so lucky, your children, because they are experiencing that mindset at a young age, which they can then harvest much later. Whereas I feel some of us have lost that because we came onto the bandwagon slightly later. But there is no good time. Like you always say, the best time was yesterday, but the better time is even now. It's about recognizing that. And that's why we are here. We thought it'd be a phenomenal penultimate topic to talk about before we close next week with sharpening your saw, which I'm sure everybody is going to benefit from. So we've got a fabulous bunch of 26 individuals raring to go.
There's a book that correlates a lot with this, and I've read a lot of books, and I don't think we talk enough on our sessions about the amazing books that we've all read. I know you've read many books yourself. There's a few in my portfolio that I read over and over and over again. One is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, The Magic of Thinking Big. And for today's topic, one that really resonated one was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's one when we talk about today's topic is, and he talks about the different quadrants, of your brain, and how one side of your brain works versus the other. And
I
you have
have
that.
that book. I
Yeah.
think, just bear with me. Um, it's on there you go.
Oh, fantastic. There you go.
Got an arrow pointing to the particular one as well, that I also refer to, the cash flow quadrant, but it's either. So you were talking about it. I thought I remember I have those.
And you and I didn't discuss this topic. We didn't
No.
tell each other what we we're talking about. So we're very synchronized in in our mindset. So that energy is definitely there. So you have. Let's talk a little bit about that the cash flow quadrant. Excuse me. The self-employed. Excuse me. I have something in my throat. Take over, Shazi, for just a second. I'm going to grab a
That's
little bit of
fine.
water.
So just to remind everybody what Maher was referring to in terms of it is all about knowing where we want to begin. So I think that
What
before we head on to the quadrant, it's really reflecting on your mindset and what mindset do you have. And this gentleman sums it up quite nicely in a couple of seconds. I mean, I think it's 60 or 60 to 70 seconds. So here you go. Hopefully you'll be able to
what do
hear
you
it.
think are the key things that abundant mindset people around money do differently than scarcity mindset people around money?
They appreciate it, as you said. That is a biggie. They appreciate it and they speak about it as they love it. They're not weird about it. They're also generous with it, because when you pinch yourself off from giving, that is sort of a subconscious way of saying there's not enough to go around and it's not going to, I'm not in the flow. So when you don't give generously, it's because you're scared that it's not going to come in anymore. They take risks. You got to take risks. You are where you are because you've been doing what you've been doing. So if you want to change your life, you've got to do stuff you've never done. They learn about money. It is really just sort of getting in the flow with that and just, being on good terms with it and focusing on it.
And I think, Maher, you made a perfect point that many people refer to the freedom of leverage through money, but actually it's what that does to give you back your time. And I think that's really important that we keep that as our focal point. And you mentioned the quadrants, and I have those quadrants for you: the
Thank you.
employee, the self-employed, business, and investor. So there you go.
So that's great. Thank you for putting that up. I didn't even know you were going to do that. So that's amazing. Let's talk about the employee or self-employed, mindset. And you know, a lot of us are like, there's nothing wrong with being an employee. I mean, uh, having a job, especially at the youth and while you're getting that experience, is great. I went to work. I've had two jobs in my life, and then before I ended up being diversified. But let's talk about people's mindset. They think that I'm going to trade 1 hour for this amount of dollars. Okay. And that's that linear type of thinking. And so my shift, not many years after that, turned into more of a business. And I had a role model. I had my father who was an entrepreneur, self-employed. I went to work for him. But anyone can learn this, that shift into that business or investor mindset. So, and we talked about earlier about diversifying your portfolio and you can remain being an employee, but what are you doing with that paycheck? Is that money finite and you're going to use it and you're going to just wait for the next one? Or are you going to use that to diversify and make that money make you money? Does that make sense? And this is a great slide right here. I'll let you discuss this one.
Yeah, so essentially, as you said, there's nothing wrong with being any of the quadrants. It's your choice. You can choose to be
Yes.
an employee, you can choose to be self-employed, you can choose to be a business owner or an investor. I think what the important thing is to remember that it's your decision, but what is it that you want? When I first shifted from being in a school and I climbed the ladder to a head teacher and I had self-employment on the side, but I was still working for myself because I was still serving time to gain a resource to live. And a big business owner, where we talk about the scalability of a huge multinational company, takes time, takes a lot more energy, takes huge staff team. We still have overheads, and it can be scaled, but it's got to be really big, like those multinationals like McDonald's and Nike and Adidas, to be able to give you your time back. And then you've got the investor quadrant, where you do get leverage, some automation, passive, and time freedom. And when I was writing this book, for me, I was always on the left-hand side of the quadrants, moving from employee to self-employed, going back up. I thought if I'm contracting, I'm self-employed. And I was in a way in control of my time, but I still had to serve time. The only difference was I was my own boss, but I still had to get out and do my 8 hour, 10 hour grinds to get what I needed. And I had over the years been looking at different projects to move to that investor quadrant. And I was not ready for a hedge fund amount. I didn't have millions that I could put in, and I wanted to learn. So I explored digital products. I explored lots of things. Came across at the time, 2017 was my first encounter with crypto and Forex, still relatively new. I had seen some come up and down, but I knew whether the ones that I had tried were right or wrong. They were wrong vehicles, but I knew that there was some substance in these products. And having met QBN, before QBN even was born, I realized that it's possible for the average person to also become an investor and multiply. And that's what this whole session is about, that we don't need to go fast, but there will be a point when we will go fast if we understand the power of
Women.
compounding. Because the two relate, don't they, Maher? The
Yeah.
investing and then compounding. And I think too many of us think, oh, I'm going to start, and after a year, why isn't my account now doubled or tripled? It will, but you need a slow start. It's a bit like when you start training, Maher, and you start building that muscle, and you're like continually keeping that discipline and mastery. And suddenly you realize that the compound effect has kicked in and the results are becoming visible. It's the same in business. And I think that's the mindset that we need to have and not think about quitting too soon. What do you have to say on that, Maher?
Yeah, and I'd like to go back. I'd like to, for everyone on this call, it's important that you identify which quadrant you're in. You know, where are you and what do you want to be? You know, that's a question I have for everyone. You know, what must you change to move to the right side of the quadrant? You know, you have that the E, the employee, the S, the self-employed, the B, the business owner, and the I, the investor. And to break it down, E for me translates into trades time for money. You know, S owns a job, B owns a system, and I owns assets. You know, you assets invest. And so identify which quadrant you guys are in. What quadrant do you want to be in? And that's why it's so important to write your goals down. You know, I have in the journal in my backpack that I carry every day, written down on front page. I have short-term goals and long-term goals. And you know, I identified my quadrant many years, and your quadrant can shift from time to time as your life progresses. But what quadrant do you want to be in? You know, we always talk about quotes and Stoic philosophies. There's a quote by Seneca, and he says, it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we have. Let me read it from here. I got it here somewhere. Okay, there it is. It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Okay, that's what it is. That we waste a lot of time. So a very powerful quote by Seneca, and you know, we can all relate to that. How much time do we waste throughout the day? And we talked about this in a previous session. What are you doing out of your day to become productive and to create leverage for yourself, to create more time in the future? So network marketing, I learned years ago, 15 years ago, is you work a lot now to have a lot more time later. You know, that's the saying amongst a lot of people in our industry. Do the hard work now so you can have more time on your hands later. And let me share a screen.
And while you share, Maher, I had just going back to experiences, having traditional businesses and then participating in QBN. I'm just giving it as an example. I had a lot of conflict from individuals around me, like, why are you investing time in an organization that's not yours? And I have had to those objections that come along, and I've had to respond to them to say that investors don't own the organizations that they invest in. And I had a video, which I'll share later, of Coca-Cola and Warren Buffett, and who actually makes more money, the CEOs or the investor. And it's only when you get that understanding that you realize that you don't. It's normally the person who's not the owner who makes more money, because you don't have the overheads, you don't have everything else that you need to sustain the business with. You just you invest, you get the profits, you take it out, and you are in a better position. And a lot of people don't realize that, and it's really important to have that mindset.
So I found this little video or actually image. So the mindset where you have the trap. You know, you're busy. A lot of people think we're busy is good. You know, busy doesn't always have to be good. What are you doing with that busy time? You know, you have a lot of. Let me expand my screen. There we go. The trap. So busy but not free, constant effort, minimal time. And then the shift. Once you select your the quadrant you're in, you start developing skill. And you can see under his right hand, you got skills and systems as implementing, creating leverage. And of course, on the right, you got the reward, the results, and the freedom. And so we just talked about spending a lot of time now. Stop sharing my screen to work more later. And let's talk about the different types of leverages. You know, there's the let me
Even
there's
it's all about those royalty that people can get from various
yes.
different assets that they partake in or decide to build. When I first looked at leverage, I started with books and courses, and then because it's a one-time effort, and you benefit from it time and time again, and that's where truly passive income comes in. But the biggest difference I learned from the network side was, Mahir, that I can create a product, but I need to then really retail a big amount of those products to get the passive that I need for freedom of time. And the beauty of being part of a networking organization meant not only do I benefit from the product, but I'm also benefiting, leveraging from the people. So there was a dual effect, and the compound effect kicked in sooner. And I think a lot of people who, or generalizing there, many people think that network style opportunities for passive don't work for me because of this. We find excuses, but it's not until you experience it you realize, well, actually, you've got a dual, triple benefit here. You're not yourself. Even if it's a product-based company, you're not retailing yourself. It's a team effort. Everything is a team effort. So it doesn't matter what industry you go into. What do you have to say on that, Maya? Because I know you've
So
had lots of
yeah,
experience.
it doesn't matter. And what I like, something that I do, and you guys on this call know me. I love to meet new people. I like to talk to people. I like to know people. And by, we had a session not too long ago. Your network is your net worth. Remember that session? And this kind of correlates a little bit with what I'm going to say next. Because of my network and my networking, I was able to understand or meet people in other industries that I'm not a part of. So I know a lot of you guys have a special skill, whether you're a real estate agent. I see Juan on here, whether you're Kyler, who's owns his own business, Marcus, who's on here, and he's diversified as well. But continue networking with people so you can learn more about other industries that are available to you. And I didn't know anything about crypto until I met a few people that were involved in crypto, piqued my attention. And now I'm heavily involved. I do my own crypto trading. Forex. I mean, I would have never learned about Forex unless I was in a circle of friends or around people networking and learning about that industry. Now, I'll tell you a story that happened yesterday. Yesterday, I was at a store here in Dallas, and we were looking at men's cologne, and the gentleman right next to me, I started a conversation with him. He ends up being from Ethiopia and here from in Dallas at a convention. He does importing and exporting of minerals, and I have no idea what mineral. We exchange numbers. Now we're gonna keep in touch. I'm gonna learn more about what he does. If it's something that I'm gonna benefit from or diversify into, that's what it's about. It's about creating a skill, a knowledge, and learning to create leverage for time. And there's different types of leverage, and networking for me is one of the most amazing experiences. Like Shazia said, I'm very diversified in many different industries, and I set my example to my children. You can always learn a new skill. Learning a new skill is one of the best investments you can spend, is learning in yourself. Yes or no, Shazia?
Absolutely. And I think I'm somebody who always says to myself, no more Shazia, that's it. And then what do I know? Next minute, alas, I'm already doing something else. So I think it's become a habit now and I can't break out of it. But we love it. That's why we do it. On top of that, there's no excuses. If we commit to something, and that's what I love about myself and Maher. Things can happen, life happens. But we know it's all about just touching base and thinking, where are you? Who's here? Where? Who's going to do what? Just to give you context, at the time of the call, I'm fasting and it's time to open the fast. But where am I? It's on the call. There's no excuses, and there are too many of us who look for excuses. And I think we need to park those excuses because when there's commitment, that comes first, and anything can be done. And it's that decision. I always say, is it one day or day one? And for me, every day is a fresh start, day one. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Mahir.
At the beginning of the year, we talked about, more than 90% of New Year's resolutions are out in the wind by the first 30 days. More than 90% of people that create a New Year's resolution fail after 30 days. Are we on this group, 32 people, going to be those 10%? Are we going to be that top 1%? Hold yourself accountable when you set goals. I set a goal March 1st of 2025 to start doing push-ups. And, I get up at 4:30 a.m. to start my fast. And the first thing I do is I do my push-up. I did not want to do push-ups today. Trust me. I wanted to sleep in an extra 10, 15 minutes. I got down and I did my push-ups. And then I had my meal before the sunrise. And that's the commitment that you guys have to have with yourself. Hold yourself accountable. And then have family members in your circle hold you accountable as well. And so all those little things are going to create a different mindset for yourself where you're going to start creating leverage. You're going to start learning new skills. You're going to start diversifying. I'm not telling you guys to stop doing what you're doing. A lot of you guys love what you do and continue doing it. All I'm saying is step out of your comfort zone. There are other things out there. And of course, where there's reward, there's also going to be risk. And as long as your risk is calculated and you have the right mindset, then, at the end of the day, if you're in it long enough, you're going to be on the right side of that leverage. I think we're getting.
I can see a question come in, but also the skills stack up, and that's where the compound effect comes in. Because when you learn a new skill, you will start realizing at different stages in your career when the application of those skills get stronger, they get deeper, they become more natural. And as Maher reads the question to respond to, and when we talk about networking, I don't know about you, Maher, but sometimes if I can't find an opportunity, I create the opportunity because then I feel there's a gap. So there are lots of networking opportunities in my view. I go online on social media, Eventbrite, see what's happening in the local community, Facebook, whatever. But if I feel that what I want is not there, then what do? We just create that. That's my way of working. I'm not sure how you would, Mahir.
Same, not any different. And I'm going to read the question because I think you might have already answered it without reading it. As far as networking, how can one take the first step after they decide a field they want to get into? Essentially, where can one access networking opportunities if the determination is there? So I think you answered that question.
But also, Maher, I think sometimes if I want to do something and I feel I can't find somebody in my circle, I'll put a post out. Is there anybody in my network who is interested in? And I think that confidence is the first step to just ask without fear of judgment. I think a lot of us don't put content out and questions out because we feel that we're not sure what the response is going to be like. And if that is too a big, bold step, then I just start creating broadcast groups and identifying people who might align. And that way, the message is going out to everybody, but they're not all in the same space they see it more as a personal one. But it's just starting the conversation. And one person is usually enough, in my view, in your group to start it with. And they'll give you some ideas, they'll boost your confidence, and you'll step up and find. For me, my head beautiful example of networking has been since 2002. I first came across this industry of networking and network marketing, and I have learned a lot by just going to events, meeting people. It's boost my confidence. You meet, no, you don't have to be of a certain caliber. Anyone can do it. It's just about making that decision. And so I've loved it, and I get criticized on it that why at your educational level are you looking into that? And I said, because that is the industry that has given me freedom of time.
Absolutely. And the question is by my nephew Nasser, who is just doing his final steps in becoming a pharmacist. And congratulations to him. And he is, he's seen the entrepreneurship part of it. So that's amazing that he wants to be a pharmacist. And let's just use him as an example. He's going to go grab some experience at one of these pharmacies, and whether it's a hospital or independent pharmacy or one of the franchises or local pharmacies or nationwide pharmacy. But growing up in a family that are entrepreneurs, he might have the desire to own his own pharmacy one day. And that's what I mean by leveraging your time. Leverage for time is, one day he's going to be an owner of his own pharmacy and create more wealth and more success and potentially even more than one. And so, going back to his question, like you said, Shazia, there are a lot of events for every industry in this world. You name an industry, you Google search it, there's going to be an event somewhere in some major city about that event. So the other thing I wanted to say is don't spread yourself thin. And I've caught myself doing that as well. Last year, I started learning, I learned Italian. I started in January. Then I got into Forex trading. Then I started learning stock options. And I was learning 3 complex skills at the same time. And it was a struggle. And I noticed myself giving less attention to some of my core businesses that needed my attention. So just a suggestion from me, don't spread yourself too thin. If you want to learn a skill, find a skill, focus on that skill, learn it, perfect it, and then move on. Whether you're going to, I'm not going to be a Forex trader for the rest of my life. I wanted to know because I own a Forex trading platform. So again, as we're wrapping up this 30-minute call, diversify, invest, and get that mindset to have your circle of friends, and your network being your net worth is really, really a big part of this leverage, stepping out of that comfort zone. Shazia, do you have any last comments or words you'd like to add?
I agree, and I just wanted to share the example of this investor mindset because I think too many of us, and including myself, wanted to be owners of organizations. And sometimes now I think actually I prefer to be the other person and let everybody else do the work. And what I liked about it was it really, it was an example of Warren Buffett and how he invested in Coca-Cola and just comparison of the owner. And it is a little bit outdated, but it gives us the example.
CEO of Coca-Cola made $50 million last year. A lot of money, right? Okay, that's earned income. Government's going to take half of it. Warren Buffett invested in Coca-Cola. He was paid $508 million. Come on. Last year. That's passive income.
As a dividend?
Yes. And you know how many people on the internet want to be the boss?
A lot.
Dude, the boss don't make any money. Don't be the boss. Don't be the CEO. Be the investor.
Yeah.
Just invest. And what is
And that's why I put the date because it wasn't last year. It was a while back. But the whole idea was if you want to be a boss, be a boss. Like Maher said, diversify. Own your organizations that you want to organize. If you want to go and work somewhere too. But also think, as Maher, you mentioned, what are you going to put away? And that's going to grow for you over time. That's going to compound over time. Because once you truly experience the power of compound profit, as I call it. I know it's the eighth wonder of the world and it's known as compound interest, but I'm more of a profit person. I believe that every day we cash in and we cash out, especially in our trading platform, and interest is fixed. Profit is not, but it still compounds. It then does start making a life-changing difference. And that is huge. And that would be my message to end the call. And you've got another message from your nephew. Thank you, Amo. that's the let me just can't the dream. Confidence was something I struggle with growing up in pressure of successful entrepreneurship around me. I hope it wasn't you, Maher. And as I strengthened that, my opportunities grew. Love what Shazia said about confidence. Yeah, and I think my like you Nasir, when I was younger, I lacked confidence. You wouldn't think that now. And I was somebody who was always withdrawn in the classroom, wouldn't put my hand up because I feared judgment and I feared getting it wrong. And now I don't really care if I get it wrong because no one's perfect. We've got our own mindset, our own paradigm, our own model of the world, and we can't put that on somebody.
When I was his age, I looked at my father and I said, "There's no way I'm going to be able to top this guy. He's the best of the best. He was so successful. The way he networked and all that was such an amazing lesson for me." And he kept saying, "I want my children to be better than me. I want my children to be better than me." That's all I heard that growing up. So I felt this overwhelming sense of trying to outdo him and become better than him. And so, I just saw him a few earlier today, and he told me and my brother Majid how proud he was of what we've accomplished and how we've way surpassed what he ever dreamed of doing, and we've made him really proud, and that's amazing to hear from your father. And so I say that to my nephew as well. Yes, you look up to your uncle here and your dad. We're entrepreneurs, but your generation has a lot more tools than we did, and you're going to be an amazing success story. So looking forward to seeing that. And for everyone on this call, as we wrap it up, I wish you guys the most amazing day. I hope that we provided a little bit of knowledge or insight into creating leverage, what leverage is about, and different types of leverage. Because you have the labor leverage, you have the knowledge leverage, there's so many types of leverage, and at the end of the day, create your goals, be around your circle of friends, be disciplined, and if you're happy where you're at, I mean, that's great. Diversifying and risk is not for everybody, but it was for me, and I
And
hope
it
that
was for me.
yeah, and I
Thank
hope
you.
everyone here steps out of your comfort zone. And stepping out of your comfort zone doesn't always mean having to spend money. Stepping out of your comfort zone could mean, if I'm not a public speaker, hey, let me learn a skill about talking to people. Start with small crowds, start with your family, and grow from there. It could mean learning a new skill. You're intimidated by a new skill. Sit down and learn. You're never too old to learn. And there's this saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I don't like that saying because I've learned a lot of new tricks, and
Yeah.
I'm not a young puppy. So again, thank you for joining us. We're hovering around the 40-minute mark now, and I wish you guys an amazing day. Shazia, thank you for being such an amazing co-host, and for everyone on this call, you have an amazing, amazing, blessed day. I'm going to keep you guys in my prayers for stepping out of your comfort zone, for creating leverage for you and your family. And we'll see you next week for our final, wrapping up the final session of the Mindset Matters 12 sessions. Love you guys.